What's up, everybody? It has been 16 months since Elden Ring dropped, and even though we know that the DLC will be called Shadow of the Erdtree, we don't know when it will be releasing, and it is very likely that it might be in 2024. If that's the case, it would be 2 years from the game releasing to the DLC coming out. And in today's video, I wanted to ask myself the question, is that too much time? Elden Ring broke records, and a lot of the core fan base will be buying it no matter when it releases. But will the casual enjoyers have moved on from Elden Ring? Today, I wanted to try to find the answer to that question. But before we get into that, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. That way, you'd never miss another video. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. So obviously, for the purpose of the video, we have to speculate when the Elden Ring DLC will actually drop to see if that's too long or if it's a reasonable amount of time. And these speculations will be based on facts, and the only facts that we have right now are in the Kadokawa report. For those who don't know, Kadokawa is the parent company of From Software, and they dropped a full year forecast report not too long ago. And in that report, they were forecasting their profits, and there were two categories. The first category was the fiscal year ending in March 31st, 2024, and the second category was the medium to long-term direction. In the first category, you had Armored Core. As we all know, Armored Core is releasing on August 25th. And then the Elden Ring DLC was in the medium to long-term direction. So that would mean that we would be safe to assume that the DLC isn't coming before March 2024. Now, you can do what you want with this information. You can choose to believe it or not, but I do believe it will be accurate to some extent because keep in mind, this is the forecast that they are giving to the investors. So I would find it rather strange if on their forecast they're saying it will be around March 2024 and then they release it in 2023. I find that highly unlikely. So for the sake of the video, let's assume it is releasing in March 2024. Is it going to be too late? Will the hype have died? And the short answer is it depends. Because for me and you, people that are From Software fans, fanatics in some cases, we will definitely buy it, even if it releases in 4 years. But for the average players, a lot of people have moved on from Elden Ring, and we'll be taking a look at these numbers in just a moment. But I was talking to a friend yesterday as we were playing Diablo 4, doing endgame content, and I was asking him, I believe that the Elden Ring DLC is going to release early next year. Are you going to buy it? Are you going to play it? And his answer was, meh. And this guy was insanely into Elden Ring when it just came out. He was doing so much PvP. And that's my point, is that 2 years is a lot of time for the hype to die down and for players to move on to other things. Gamers these days have such a short attention span, and there are so many releases that some players might not be interested in revisiting the lands between. But let's take a look at the Steam charts to see how the player base is doing currently. So let's take a look at these numbers. So it started in March with over 500,000 average players, which is absolutely insane. And in April, it was already down by half, which is normal. Then it dwindled down all the way up to 23,000 in November. And in December and January, there was a boost. Probably it went on sale. And now it kept dwindling back all the way to the last 30 days, when we are at 22,000 average players. Now, don't get me wrong, these are amazing numbers, especially considering that this is just Steam and doesn't count Xbox and PlayStation. But imagine the hype they would have been able to create if they released the DLC in March 2023, just after getting that boost from the Christmas season. That would have been insane. Now, one thing that I do want to take a look at is the pattern with the DLCs, so we can compare it to what From Software has been doing usually. Now, I know that Elden Ring's development has been anything but normal, and we should expect the DLC development to follow the same route, but let's take a look at what From Software has done with their previous games. So Artorias of the Abyss was released 11 months after Dark Souls. Crown of the Sunken King released 4 months after Dark Souls 2, but then there was a trilogy and it released over the next few months. And Ashes of Ariandel would come out 7 months after Dark Souls 3. And Bloodborne's DLC, The Old Hunters, released 8 months after the first game. So we clearly see a pattern here. It's always under a year. Now, obviously, it was going to be a bit longer for Elden Ring, the game's open world, but 2 years is pushing it. Now, I do understand the ambition that From Software and Bandai Namco have for Elden Ring. They want it to be a brand that has its own books, TV shows, and so on. They want to really expand on the IP. But there's one thing that I believe could be holding it back, and it's the fact that Elden Ring is still a cross-gen game. So the new gen released in 2020 with the PS5 and the Xbox Series S X. And then in 2022, Elden Ring comes out, it's cross-gen, that makes perfect sense. But now if we're going into 2024 and they're still developing for a cross-gen game, I think it's time to move on with the new gen and expect some better graphics, fidelity, and so on. Trust me, I'm not shit-talking From Software, I would never do such a thing. I know very well that graphical fidelity is nowhere close to as important as art direction is. But still, I would love to see From Software finally make the jump into next gen. I mean, we're in 2023 and even Armored Core is cross-gen. And we obviously know that the Elden Ring DLC will be cross-gen. So I truly hope that the next game they're developing will be next-gen, or should I say current-gen. Because I would love to see what From Software is able to do with their art direction on top of having a high level of graphical fidelity. So in conclusion, do I think the Elden Ring DLC will sell well? Of course, obviously. Will I buy it? Yes. Is 2 years a long time to wait for a DLC? Absolutely. I know they were trying to make 2 smaller DLCs and they decided to merge it into one. Obviously, they must have very good reasons. But I think they could have capitalized on the hype of Elden Ring even further by releasing 2 smaller DLCs. Now, before we wrap up the video, I'll just give you my thoughts as to when we should expect to see any news from the Elden Ring DLC. And I would say don't expect it at Gamescom. Gamescom is way too close to the release of Armored Core. I believe they will show a launch trailer and have some more marketing for Armored Core, as it's a great opportunity, and From Software usually has a presence at Gamescom. But where I believe we will see the Elden Ring DLC will be at the Game Awards at the end of 2023. I think this would be a great venue to premiere a trailer along with a release date. I would assume possibly in February or March 2023 if they're going close to what they said in the Kadokawa report. So that's my guess. But let me know in the comment section what you think. When do you think we'll hear back from this DLC? Would you prefer one big DLC, or would have 2 smaller DLCs been better in your opinion? I think that from a business standpoint, 2 smaller ones would have probably been preferable, but I guess we'll see how it goes. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the videos, and I'll see you guys on the next one.